This is, I think, emblematic of the challenge we face and how we get it done. So I just want to review and just sketch out how we got here. And how we got here started with an actor and a Republican who became governor. I'm talking about Ronald Reagan. See, I like to go back at least 40 years. That's when I started. And I followed two Republican actors, and they both were very interested in the environment. Now, a lot of you don't know, but Ronald Reagan was governor and Richard Nixon was president. This was 1969, and California was given a specific authority to obtain a waiver to have much more stringent vehicle emission standards. And that was only given to California, although other states could follow our lead. And that became the precedent for California to actually pioneer air pollution strategies to improve our health, and then more recently, our whole environment. And so that was really the point where I identify how come California is so different from so many of the other states. And it started back under the Clean Air Act when California was given this specific prerogative to chart its own course. And by the way, all the things they're saying about AB 32 was said about the vehicle emission standards. In fact, I recall Henry Ford himself coming out to complain. We were cranking down the NOx emission standards. And Mary was there, and Tom Quinn, and Henry Ford himself came. But after a while, he went away relatively happy. We didn't hear from him again. So we got that. But it's very similar. So first we get Reagan. Then we get Gray Davis, and we get the Pavley emission standards. And then we get Governor Schwarzenegger, and we get AB 32. And I'm not sure we could have gotten AB 32 if we had a Republican legislature and a Democratic governor. I think we needed a Democratic legislature and a very independent-minded Republican governor. That's how it happened. So that's, of course, a lot of these things are like the California Environmental Quality Act and a bunch of other things that we have in California that were signed under Reagan. Then the next guy who comes along, you got to make it work. And so that's kind of what I'm doing with AB 32, actually. But make no mistake about it, to get AB 32 through the California legislature, that is heavy lifting. And I don't think anyone should ever underestimate that. I'm not sure any other governor might have done this. And sometimes I have to say, not only do you need big dreams, but you can't know everything about the legislature or you wouldn't even try. So and that's why we need some fresh eyes on the prize. Not right now. We don't need any fresh eyes right now. But we will. Eventually, you're going to need some fresh thinking in Sacramento. So anyway, we do have something. California is the world leader in climate change because of Governor Schwarzenegger and AB 32, and before that, to the special legal prerogatives given to the state. And there's another element that I think has put California in the forefront. From the time of John Muir, there's been a sensitivity to the environment in California, maybe because of our wonderful Sierras, maybe because of Lake Tahoe, maybe we're joining the Pacific Ocean. There is a sensitivity, and therefore there's an openness for these kind of environmental initiatives. So it is a bipartisan. It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's a human challenge. And we're getting things done because we're rising. Everything that someone said, I think it was Teilhard de Chardin, that said, whatever rises converges. And if we lift our our minds and hearts and our imagination, we will converge around a sense of what's good for all of us, what's good for humanity, what's good for the future generations. And that's what the climate change challenge is. It's not the immediate, it's not the news bite, it's not going to lead the 6 o'clock news, but it is really profound in its importance. And how we respond will be a measure of democratic governance. Can it really work? And I think it can. I think it is in California. We are attacking carbon pollution. And we know from the ruling of the EPA and the Supreme Court, carbon is a pollutant. It's a pollutant because it's a greenhouse gas, and that endangers all of humanity. And when we reduce carbon pollution, we improve the health of our lungs, we reduce respiratory assaults that carbon makes on us, and the same with asthma, and it has real practical, even agricultural productivity. All that is degraded by the promiscuous and uncontrolled production and emission of various forms of carbon. And that's why the carbon industry, those who produce, extract, and produce and deliver carbon in its various forms, the coal industry, the oil industry, and the natural gas industry have an obligation, a human obligation, to deal with the consequences of their own success. And I was speaking to an oil industry executive, and he said, this isn't a problem, this is the basis of our prosperity. And if you look at the history of economic growth, you'll see that since the industrial age, there's been a spike in economic output and prosperity. It's unprecedented in all of human history. So yes, fossil fuels have been at the heart of the rise, the incredible rise of modern prosperity. But there is now, we now see a dark shadow. And what works and produces one result can also work to produce quite another result. And so the dark shadow of the prosperity of the carbon economy is climate change, extreme weather events, the rising of sea level, the forest fires of California, the droughts that cause hunger and famine and mass migrations. This is the dark shadow that we have to understand. And now we have to find a way to continue and deepen the prosperity even as we correct for the negative impacts of carbon pollution. We have to make changes. And those changes are not made in government halls. We don't make batteries at the EPA or the state of California. That's done by inventors and technologists and derived from investment capital. And luckily, California gets 50% of the venture capital that is made available in America. So we have to look to our entrepreneurs and our scientists and our researchers to develop the technology. But in order to make the technology, we have to have the incentives. And that's what we're doing here in California with our cap and trade system, with our one-third goal of renewable energy, or with our building standards, and with our appliance efficiency standards, with our upgrading of the grid to make it sophisticated, with our energy imbalance markets. We have an integrated plan to reduce carbon pollution while at the same time continuing our prosperous path forward. And as we change technology, we're going to have to change some of our understanding of what the good life requires. So it's not only a matter of different machines, it's also a matter of different values. And the two have to be molded together as we go forward, and that makes it difficult. So it's a technology challenge, it's a value challenge, it's a local challenge, and it's a global challenge. So if we do everything right, that's not enough if we only do it in California. In fact, one oil company executive said, whatever you do in California it makes no difference. And that's not true. What we do in California affects what they do elsewhere. California is a pioneer. The automobile emission standards that the United States now enforces were started in California. So it's true that if no one follows, it's not enough. But if we continue to pioneer and to prove that we can succeed economically as well as environmentally, other people will be able to follow. And in fact, California is growing faster than the rest of the country in technology business, in manufacturing, in economic advance, as well as jobs. If you don't believe me, read Bloomberg News today. They've laid it all out there. So go to the internet. They said it. Anyway, so there it is, and I want to thank all of you for coming and being a part of this, because it is very hard to think about climate change, much less to take the concrete efforts and make the investments needed. But California is the Golden State. We're the land of dreams, and we're going to continue making this dream of a sustainable planet work locally and spreading globally. What happens here doesn't stay here. It goes all around the country and all around the world. Thank you very much.